8 o- it's almost 3:10, 10 past 3, yeah.
Yes, can.
Okay. Okay. All right. So welcome all. So I'll just have a quick prayer to Lord Ganesha to see us through this session. Om Gam Ganapati Namah. Okay. Thank you. Welcome all. Excluding Master Rajeswaran and myself, there are 11 of us here today. So welcome all of you all.
Thank you.
So today we are going to discuss two charts, both sannyasis. One is Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa, and the other is Osho Rajneeshya. So I will be talking about Ramakrishna, Sri Ramakrishna, and Master Rajeswaran will be talking about Osho. Yeah. Okay. So so before I start, thanks, Paneer. Yeah. So this is the chart of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa. So so before I start, can I have at least, okay, not, this is the question not for the astrology seniors here, yeah. It's for the juniors, the ones who have just started astrology. So can you just anyone here, can you just make a comment on the chart? I mean, I'm sure you've had a day to look at it. So does anybody, other than the seniors, other than Major Thiru and the others, can anyone comment? Just make a just what observe anybody, any volunteers?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
Nina.
I do see that the first house of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, there's more than 4 planets in his first house.
There's been exalted.
In the ascendant Lagna house, yes. Three planets, sorry.
Okay. And what else?
Jupiter is in the 5th, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Actually, it should be retrograde, no, Paneer?
Retrograde.
What else do you see other than that? Yeah.
That's 4 exalted.
Selva,
5 exalted houses.
Exalted planets, you mean?
Planet.
Okay.
And Mercury is in a yoga, I think. It's on both sides in Navamsa and
Vargotama,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And
anything else?
Yeah.
Which one is the retrograde? The Mercury?
Okay. All right. Okay.
Is the Mercury retrograde?
Yeah. Mercury is retrograde. Jupiter is retrograde.
The retrograde is actually symbolized by the backward arrow.
Oh, I see. Your backward arrow.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. All right. Okay. Anything else? At least one other point.
Jupiter is sorry, sir. Jupiter is aspecting Saturn.
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, okay. What else? One very important point is something that we covered in the basic class. Every time, I say the moment you look at you take a chart out, you want to see what are the houses. This is involving the houses. What do you see? Planets and houses.
The Lord of the Exile.
When you look at that Ramakrishna chart D1, I think Mars is accelerated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something to do with that.
Okay. The ascended Lord is exalted. Satan is exalted in the 9th house.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Mars.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to the chart, because otherwise I'm I'm eating into master's time. Master Rajeswaran's time. Okay. Basically, if you look at the chart, like I said in the basic class that we looked at, yeah, you want to see a brief overview. You'll see that there are 5 planets that are exalted. Yeah. Mars is exalted in the 12th house. Venus is exalted in the second house. Saturn is exalted in the ninth house. And then, of course, I mean, this is Rahu and Ketu are considered to be exalted in these 2 houses. Yeah. Normally they say Rahu is exalted either in Taurus or Gemini, and Ketu is exalted in Scorpio or Sagittarius. Yeah. I mean, here we consider Rahu and Ketu to be exalted. So in total, we've got 5 exalted planets. Yeah. All right. And then also the 7 planets are seated either in Kendra or Trikona houses. You see that there are 3 in one house number 1, Rahu in 4, Jupiter in 5, Saturn is 9, Ketu 10. Yeah. So 5 planets are seated either in a Kendra or a Trikona house. Yeah. So the same thing also is looking at the D9, you'll also see the same thing. Yeah. 5 planets in Kendra Trikonam. Yeah. Okay. So, okay, I think the D9 isn't numbered, but okay, it doesn't matter. Yeah. You'll see that the ascendant, and then you'll see that in house 5, you've got 5 planets, 7, you've got moon. Yeah. 10, you've got Mars, Ketu, and then you've got Sun, and Rahu in 4. Yeah. So basically, you've got a very strong D9 and a very strong D1. And of course, Mercury is Vargotama. Mercury is in the same sign in the D9 as well. Yeah. Okay. And Saturn is sitting in its own house. Okay. So therefore, you can say that, I mean, basically, it's a extremely strong chart. Yeah. Okay. All right. So as you all know who Ramakrishna is, he's one of the greatest Latter-day Saints of America, I was going to say America, Latter-day Saints of India. Yeah. 19th century saint of India. Of course, India is a land full of saints. Yeah. I mean, you need more than, I mean, there are more than, there's so many saints you can't really count them in your 10 fingers. Yeah, right. Okay. So yeah. So of course, other than Yogananda, who is the last of these saints, yeah, Ramakrishna was a 19th century saint, and together with, of course, his disciple, who is that?
Swami Vivekananda.
Vivekananda. Yeah. Sorry, slipped my mind. Okay, all right. So basically we know his chart roughly. We know that he was a great saint. So let's quickly look at the yogas. That's in his chart. Yeah, all right. Okay. So there are a number of yogas in his chart. Of course, and the classics. There are various classics that are stating what the yogas are. Of course, Priyat Parashara Hora will give its own definition of some of the yogas. So, but let's start off with one that is in another classic called Brigu Shamita. Yeah, okay, that made him a master of a religious order. Yeah, master of a religious order, or it's also called Sampradaya Prabhu. Yeah, okay, all right, okay. So this particular yoga required 6 conditions here that needed to be fulfilled. Yeah, okay. So condition 1 was that the Lord of the 9th house has to be exalted. Lord of the 9th house, Venus exalted there in 2. Yeah. Second condition was that an exalted planet in the 9th house. So 9th house has got an exalted planet. Third condition was that the ascendant is situated in the 9th house. Here you've got ascendant Lord situated in the 9th house and aspected by Jupiter. So that's the third condition. Mercury in a Kendra. So Mercury is seated in house 1, so it's a Kendra or a Trikona. Jupiter should be seated in a trine, so Jupiter is in the 5th house there. And then sorry, can you Sorry, whoever is not involved can unmute, please.
Mrs. Kolandevelu,
Sorry.
can you mute your phone?
Yeah. Panirji,
Can you mute?
Thank you.
you can mute them since you're the host.
Sorry,
Oh, I didn't
sorry.
know.
Oh, I can, is it? Okay, okay. I didn't
You
know
also
that.
can,
All
sir.
right.
Chandras also can.
Oh, okay. Okay. And then the sixth condition is this: the ascendant should be in a stera sign, fixed sign. Yeah. So as you all know, this is a fixed sign. Aquarius is a fixed sign. So basically, it fulfills all six conditions, of this particular yoga. This very powerful. Uh, I mean, it's actually a sannyasi yoga. Yeah, and it's called Sampradaya Prabhu. Yeah, that yoga is called. Yeah. Okay. And then, of course, if you look at the chart, it's littered with other yogas, Pravraja yoga. Basically, Pravraja yoga is a sannyasa yoga as well. Yeah, okay. I mean, that's another name for it. So this is from BPHS, Brihat Parashara Hora, where it says this, if moon is situated in a Drekana of Saturn, Drekana, but of course we are not looking at the D3 here, yeah, or D3, Drekana of Saturn and aspected by Mars and Saturn, or in the Navamsa of Saturn, yeah, or in the Navamsa of Saturn or Mars while being aspected by Saturn, yeah, all right, okay. So here we have got moon seated in the house of Mars, yeah, seated in the house of Mars and aspected by Saturn, yeah, okay. So that makes it it fulfills one of the Pavaraja Yoga requirements here, okay? So this is quite a general definition, but if we look at the strength of it, moon is seated in a Kendra, 7th house, yeah? Kendra, 7th house, aspected by Saturn, sitting in its own house, 5th house, yeah? So giving it a very strong planetary positions. Of course, Mars here is debilitated, but it's actually Nicha Banga. So it's actually the Nicham has been cancelled there. Okay, all right. Okay. So yeah, and what else can I say about this? And of course, Moon here is considered to be very strong. Yeah, strong planet, and
Chandra, can you explain
Jagannath.
how this Nicha Banga is cancelled? Mars.
Oh, Nicha Banga is cancelled because the Lord of the house, Moon, is seated in a Kendra house. Yeah, all right. Okay, so that cancellation takes place there. Yeah. Okay. What else? Yeah, so I was going to say that this moon is a very strong moon. In Jagannath Hora, I think the Shadbala strength is something like 170%. Anything more than 100 will make it strong. Yeah, okay. So
it's also Parivartana, yeah? Parivartana with the moon and Mars.
Yeah, there's an exchange. Yeah. Okay, that is the other cause of the Nicha Banga, yeah, cancellation. Mars and Moon have exchanged houses. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, so that's one Pavaraja Yoga, yeah, as defined in Brihat Parashara Hora. Then when you go to another classic called Jadaka Parijata, yeah, okay, and there's another Pavaraja Yoga, yeah, okay, and this is where okay, the definition is something like this. Sorry, I've got to read it out. Okay, so the native becomes initiated if the Lord of the ascendant is aspected by many planets situated in a single sign. Yeah, if the Lord of the ascendant, Lord of the ascendant is aspected by many planets situated together in a single sign. So this is the Lord of the ascendant, Saturn. And this is planets situated in a single sign. Okay, sorry. This is called a Rasi Drishti. Yeah, okay. I mean, it's a bit of a Gemini aspect. Yeah, okay. It's a Gemini aspect. So from here, it's aspecting Saturn. Yeah. So this is a Gemini aspect. Sorry about this. Yeah, okay. So, but anyway, it's considered still an aspect, and it's called a Rashi Drishti. Yeah, okay. All right. So we have got Sun, Moon, and Mercury all situated in Aquarius, looking at the ascendant Lord Saturn, doing a Rashi Drishti. Actually, this is a fixed movable. This is a movable fixed. So fixed law planets looking at a movable sign here. Yeah. So that's a Gemini aspect. Yeah. Sorry about it. Yeah. So I think if you all are not familiar, something that you wouldn't know. Yeah. Okay. And then you've got a third Pavaraja yoga. And this is in Paladipika, another classic, yeah, all right, okay, which says that three strong planets occupying simultaneously in a single good house can lead the native to the path of ascetic, sorry, this is one of those difficult words to pronounce, asceticism, yeah. You basically become an ascetic. I mean, you become a sannyasi, yeah, okay. So you've got Sun, Moon, and Mercury all seated together in a beneficial trikona or trine or a Kendra house. Yeah. So so this is another of these sannyas related yogas. Yeah. Okay. Then you have got another yoga called a Guru Bhakti Yoga. Yeah. This is in Sarvat Chintamani. Yeah. Another classic. Yeah. Okay. So what does this say? Yeah. Okay. So this Guru Bhakti Yoga means that you're devoted to your teacher, yeah, and he was, yeah, devoted to his teacher. If the Navamsa dispositor of the Lord of the ninth house is co-joined with or aspected by Jupiter and or Venus. Okay, so let's break it down. Okay, ninth house Lord is Libra. Ninth house Lord is Libra, yeah, and the Lord of this house is Venus. So in D9, Venus is seated here in Virgo, yeah, and the lord of this Virgo is Mercury, and if you go back here, you'll see Mercury being aspected by Jupiter, yeah. So in Ramakrishna's case, he was absolutely obedient to his gurus, yeah, during his discipleship under three different gurus. Apparently, he had a number of gurus, and the three that I managed to dig up, you've got, as far as Tantra sadhana is concerned, he had someone called Bhairavi Brahmini, yeah. And then you've got the Vedanta sadhana, and this is a very famous guru called Sri Totapuri, who actually also gave him the title of Paramahansa, yeah, okay. So they don't know how he got the name Ramakrishna, because he wasn't born as Ramakrishna. He was born with the name of Vishnu. Yeah, okay. He was born with the name of Vishnu, which was something called Gadahara Chato Pade. Gadahara Chato Pade. Yeah, okay. And then, of course, the third guru that he learned was someone called Gobind Ray, where he learned Sufi traditions. Yeah, okay, all right. So that's called Guru Bhakti Yoga. Yeah, right. And then you've got yet another yoga. Yeah, this was also from Sarvat Chintamani. Yeah, okay. It is called Japa, something to do with repetition and mantras. Yeah, Japadya, Japadhyana yoga. Yeah, something else. All right. Anyway, it's got to do with repetition of yogas. Yeah. Right. Okay. So and meditation. Yeah. So leading to attainment of samadhi, yeah, right? I mean, spiritual goals, like basically, So what is the condition for this yoga? Yeah, okay. So the condition for this is that the Navamsa dispositor of the 10th Lord is endowed with strength while being related to the 9th house Lord. So let's break it down. 10th house Lord in D1 is Scorpio. Yeah, 10th house sign in D1 is Scorpio, and the lord of this sign is Mars. So if you go to D9, Mars is seated in Cancer, and the lord of the sign here is Moon. Yeah. So this moon, of course, like I mentioned earlier, is a strong moon, a strong Shadbala, yeah. And in D1, moon is getting again, like we said, what the condition was that ninth house lord. What is the condition? Condition said endowed with strength, being related to the ninth house. So how is it moon? How is it related to the ninth house? You have got again a Gemini aspect. Yeah, okay. Receiving the aspect. Basically, moon is aspecting the ninth house lord, and the ninth house lord in return is aspecting moon. Yeah, okay. All right. So that's yet another of these sannyas related yogas. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So, but before I go any further, there's one very big yoga in his chart, which we covered last week, which Hitler also had. But of course, the major question is about his time of birth. Yeah. Okay. Because that's something that I think you go to different websites, you get different times. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Basically, this is the yoga called Mahabhagya Yoga. Yeah. Okay. So basically, I think what we covered last week was that, where in the case of a male chart, where sun, moon, and the ascendant are seated in odd houses. Yeah. So in this case here, we start off here, Aries as odd. Yeah. Odd, even, odd, even, odd, even, odd, even, odd, even, odd. Yeah. So this is odd. So in this odd sign of Aquarius, we have got the ascendant, the sun, and the moon. Yeah, three lagnas. Yeah, three. I mean, if you say take moon as a lagna lord, sun as another lagna, sun lagna, and this is the Janma lagna ascendant, all seated in a odd sign. And I've got the time of birth here as 6:23. I mean, parent. Okay, we are talking about 1836. Yeah, I mean. I checked out. They said daytime is about 6:15 on average. Yeah, daytime or sunrise. Yeah. Okay. So if you look at it from that point of view, he's got this very powerful Maharaja Yoga. Yeah, Mahabhagya Yoga. Yeah. Okay, which gives him fame, wealth, name, you name it, he's got it. But of course, I mean, being a sannyas, the wealth part of it had no interest to him at all. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So that's of course really questionable, because I've seen birth time even at 6 o'clock also. So I'm not really sure whether it's applicable or not. Yeah. But yeah. So if the birth time is about right, then basically he has got this very powerful Mahabhagya Yoga. Yeah. Right. Okay. But looking at what at his life, I won't be surprised that it's yoga that that he is enjoying. Yeah. Okay. All right. So other than that, there are a series of other yogas. Okay, I mean, I'll quickly go through these other yogas. Yeah. Okay. Again, what I found is that I mean, for instance, Pancha Mahapurusha Yoga. There's a very powerful Sasa Yoga. Yeah. Yeah. Saturn exaltation position, but it's not in a Kendra. It should be actually in a Kendra, but it's in a Trikona house. But I found that some writers also still consider this as a Sasa Yoga. So I'm not really sure whether it can be taken as a Sasa Yoga. But if you actually think about it, this Saturn is a very powerful Saturn. I mean, think of it. I mean, okay, this Saturn is seated in the ninth house. That's the house of spirituality. Yeah, okay, spirituality, among other things. Lah. Yeah, okay, all right. And the dispositor of this house is Venus, and Venus is exalted here. Yeah, Venus is exalted here. So, and on top of that, Saturn is getting the aspect of a Jupiter. Yeah, all right. Saturn is getting the aspect of a Jupiter. And then the other house which Saturn has, which is the 12th house of Moksha. Yeah, 12th house of Moksha. You've got an exalted Mars sitting here. Yeah, okay, all right. Okay. So that's why this Saturn is a very, very powerful house, and that's why it's got a score of 170 in Jagannath Hora, or Shadbala score, 170%. But then if I go and look at my other software, which is called Sri Jyotish Star, it's a fantastic software. Yeah, there's a score of 232%. Yeah, okay. Yeah, for this Saturn, that goes to show how powerful this Saturn is. Yeah, okay. All right. Okay. So other than that, those are the major yogas. Yeah. Okay. He's got other yogas, which I think many of you might be familiar. He's got something called Saraswati Yoga. Yeah. I mean, incidentally, just to let you all know, I mean, his education stopped when he was very young. Now, he wasn't interested in learning. Basically, from the age of 6 or 7, he had all this trances, spiritual trances. So he basically just learned fundamental, or I should say basic mother tongue, his mother tongue, Bengali, to read and write. Other than that, he didn't really carry on in school. Yeah, okay, all right. And we look at it when we look at the houses. Yeah, all right, okay. So yeah, that was his knowledge, but still, he was very much sought after by a lot of pundits and gurus and all. When as he became more famous, as his spirituality grew, and as he completed his spiritual sadhanas, other great learned people came to seek out his views, his opinions on many conflicting matters and spiritual matters. Okay, so he was a real spiritual genius in that sense. Yeah, okay. So he had something called a Saraswati Yoga. Yeah, where you've got the three benefics: Jupiter, Venus, and Mercury sitting either in a Kendra, Trikona, or the second house. Yeah, okay, all right. So you will see that Venus is seated, exalted in the second house, and then you'll see Mercury in a Kendra Trikona, first house, and Jupiter in a fifth house. So yeah, Saraswati Yoga, very powerful. So Saraswati Yoga, of course, gave him added to all the intelligence. Yeah, and Jupiter is sitting there in the fifth house of intelligence. So of course, one of the requirements for Saraswati Yoga is that you also should have a very strong Jupiter. So we have got a strong retrograde Jupiter, yeah, seated in the fifth house of intelligence. Yeah. Okay, one other yoga that also it's another sort of Saraswati. It's another sort of a sannyasa yoga. Yeah, it's called Virinchi yoga. Okay, Virinchi yoga, and this is the yoga that gave him brilliant disciples. Yeah, and which is the yoga that gave him Swami Vivekananda and all as his disciples. So basically, the requirements for this yoga are that if Jupiter, that's one, Lord of the fifth house, that's Mercury, and Saturn are in exaltation. Yeah, so Saturn is in exaltation or in own house or in friendly sign. Yeah, okay. Fifth house Lord is Mercury. Mercury is seated in a trine. Yeah, Mercury is seated in a trine, and in a friendly house. Mercury is a friend to Saturn. I think, yeah, Mercury is a friend to Saturn, and Jupiter is seated in a friend's house. Yeah, okay. So basically, that fulfilled Virinchi Yoga. Yeah, okay. So basically, what does it say? So it makes the person extremely intelligent, never deviate from the code of conduct prescribed by the Vedas, full of good qualities, many distinguished disciples. Yeah, one of whom is, of course, Swami Vivekananda. Yeah, okay. And of course, great spiritual qualities in the person. Of course, it also says wealth, wife, children, and all, which didn't really interest him as a sannyas. Yeah. Two other yogas that I have to cover. I think these are important. Maybe you can check your charts too whether you have it. One is called the Duruhara Yoga. Yeah, okay. Basically, this happens when moon is surrounded. Yeah, they say moon is never good when it's alone by itself. Yeah, when it's sitting alone by itself. Yeah, okay. So you've got here, second to moon, you've got an exalted Venus, and 12th to Venus, you've got a exalted Mars. Yeah, all right, okay. So this yoga should exclude Sun and Rahu Ketu. So basically, Sun or Rahu Ketu shouldn't be seated in second from moon or 12th from moon. Yeah, okay. So here, of course, we will see Venus, very strong, ninth lord. Yeah, ninth lord of Dharma, religion, higher knowledge, are all sitting there. Yeah, and Venus also gave him musical ability. Second house, yeah, second house of Vak, speech, yeah, gave him musical ability because he used to sing hymns in praise of his great mother, Ma Kali, yeah, okay, all right, and he could converse, gave him the power of oratory. Basically, if you see Jupiter, second lord is there, yeah, seated in the fifth house. And again, I've got to talk about, sorry about this, you've got a Rashi Drishti, this is the Gemini aspect. Jupiter and Venus are aspecting each other as a Gemini aspect, yeah, okay. Rashi Drishti taking place there, yeah, okay, all right, okay. Yeah, so and of course Mars of course gave him the ability to work hard and focus on all the sadhanas that he went through, yeah, the spiritual sadhanas that he went through. Okay, so that is called Duruhara yoga. Yeah, okay, and then there's another yoga called the Ubayachari yoga. Yeah, where you have got again similar to moon. This time it involves the sun. You've got planets on each side of the sun, yeah, second from sun and 12 from sun, but it should exclude moon and Rahu Ketu, yeah, okay. So this was another great yoga that he had, yeah. So what did this yoga do, yeah, although, so Mars is exalted here, like I said, okay, all right, okay. And although it didn't really play such a major part, but Venus was involved in many of the yogas, many of the sannyasa yogas and many of the other yogas, yeah, like Saraswati yoga and the lot, yeah, okay. So, yeah, so the strength of, okay, let's look at Mars's strength. So Mars is, of course, very strong as well. Yeah, this is the house of renunciation, moksha, renunciation. And the lord of this house, Saturn, is exalted, yeah, exalted in the ninth house, yeah, yeah. And of course, I think this is something that I've said in the basic class, whenever the Lagna Lord is involved in any of the yogas, yeah. I mean, this is something I think worth noting even in your own charts or the charts of, whenever Lagna Lord is involved in any yoga, it personalizes the yoga, yeah. It personalizes the yoga and the yogas become very strong. That's one. And the other thing is that, of course, sun and moon and ascendant, whenever yoga repeats itself, yeah, from sun and moon and the Janma Lagna, it becomes very strong. So if you actually think about it, from moon, again, you have all these exaltations apply. Moon, yeah, Saturn is exalted, Mars is exalted, yeah, because moon is in the first house. Similarly, sun as well, yeah. So it's a repetition of all these things, these yogas from the Janma Lagna ascendant, from the moon and from sun, yeah. So makes these yogas extremely strong, yeah, extremely strong. So I can go on talking about the yogas because there's just an unbelievable number of yogas. So we'll just quickly go and look at the dasas, yeah, or sorry, yeah, the not the dasas, the bhavas, yeah, the houses, yeah, right, okay. So let's look at the houses, okay. So of course, if you all can see, first house is very strong, yeah, first house is very strong, got sun, moon, ascendant. Oh, the only little downside to it is that I'll say, okay, Mercury is there. Mercury is there. Probably didn't really help towards then. Mercury is also the fifth and the eighth lord. Yeah. So as eighth lord, he's probably giving a bit of a blemish, a bit of a blemish to this first house. Yeah. Right. Okay. And of course, second house. What do we see in the second house? You've got a supremely powerful Venus. Yeah. It doesn't get any malefic aspect at all, yeah. Any malefic aspect, exalted, yeah. Okay. Like I said, there's a Gemini, Rashi Drishti from Jupiter, own house lord aspecting the own house, yeah, its own house, yeah, Jupiter's own house, yeah. So second house is also very strong. Second house, very strong house, yeah. What else can I say? So of course, I said earlier, we want to know why he didn't do well in his, education wise, there was really not much interest. Of course, you've got an exalted Rahu here, but Rahu is also a malefic, yeah. It didn't really help, yeah, that Rahu is here. Of course, second house Lord Venus is exalted, yeah. So sometimes looking at it from the lagna doesn't give a clear picture, but if you look at it from what do you call the Kala Purusha, yeah? Let's look at it from Kala Purusha. If you look at the fourth house from Kala Purusha, you'll see that the fourth house, that's the fourth house, yeah? Fourth house, and fourth house is receiving the aspect of Mars, receiving the aspect of Saturn. Saturn's 10th aspect is falling on here, and then you've got Ketu aspecting here as well. Yeah, okay. Three malefics are really aspecting the fourth house, you know. So you can see that from Kala Purusha, you can see that the fourth house is, you know, it's getting all this malefic aspects. So it probably didn't help him, you know, as far as his education was concerned. Yeah, yeah, all right, okay. But of course, it didn't really hold him back, yeah, in any way. Yeah. So if we look at fifth house, of course, has got a very strong Jupiter here. Fifth house has got strong Jupiter, and also the Lord of the fifth house is seated in the first, yeah, retrograde. Both are retrograde, yeah, okay, all right, and fifth house, and Jupiter is aspecting the fifth house Lord, okay, all right. In a strange sort of way, I mean, you would say, okay, fifth, he didn't have any children. You'll say, hey, why didn't he have any children with Jupiter being very strong here, you know? But then this brings us to another concept of yoga called Karako Bhava Nashyo, yeah, where the Lord, the significator of the house, is seated in the house, yeah, then it deprives one of that particular signification, yeah. So Jupiter here deprived him of his own kids. But of course, I think if you read anywhere, you'll see that his disciple, he loved his disciples as much as his kids, yeah, as his own kids, yeah. So really, they became his kids, yeah. All right, okay. So and also on top of that, the owner of this house, fifth, is a Mercury is a eunuch planet, or they call it a neuter planet. So it didn't really help. Yeah, it didn't really help. And this one, and this is also called what do you call Gemini? Yeah, Gemini is not noted for to be a fertile house. Yeah, okay. So all these factors added to the fact, you know, that why he didn't have any children. Yeah, okay. The children of his own. Yeah, okay. And then he got married. Yeah, okay, let's look at that. Yeah, he had to bow to tradition. Yeah, so he got married. Yeah, he got married, but somehow the marriage never really was never really consummated. Yeah, so let's look at why that didn't really happen. Yeah. Okay, basically he's got seventh house Lord who deals with marriage, looking at its own house. So that's good. Yeah, that's good. If you look at the D9, you've got actually moon also looking at its own house. You have benefic moon looking at its own house. Sorry, not its own house, looking at the ascendant. Yeah, okay. And seated, of course, in the seventh house. Yeah, okay. All right. But then there are also malefic aspects to this seventh house. Yeah, there's Mars is giving its eighth house aspect to this house. Yeah, all right, okay. And what else can we say about this seventh house? Yeah, and of course, Sun, seventh house Lord, is seated together with Moon, who also is the sixth house Lord. Although in this case here, I mean, they always say that the luminaries, where they are owning a single house, yeah, and if it's a malefic Dusthana, they aren't really, you know, that malefic. Okay, yeah. So, but still, you know, it was the sixth house Lord that, yeah. So although you have got a exalted Venus, yeah, exalted Venus, but actually, if you look at it in the Navamsa, this Venus has gone debilitated. Yeah, he's actually gone debilitated. Yeah, and he's sitting in the 12th house of Moksha Sthana, you know? Yeah, 12th house of Moksha Sthana. So this probably explains why that marriage was never consummated. Yeah, he actually, okay, he married a girl by the name of Sarada Devi, who actually became his disciple, and I think she herself achieved some sort of spiritualism. I think, if I'm not mistaken, she herself attained some sort of a spiritualism. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's 7th house. Yeah. So, and of course, 9th house, we know of the house of spiritualism, how strong it is. You've got an absolutely powerful Saturn here. Yeah. All right. Okay. And then you've got in the Moksha Sthana, you've got 12th house, you've got an exalted Mars, whose Lord, 7th house dispositor is Saturn. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, yeah. So I've got another 10 minutes. Yeah. So that I can give Guruji Rajeswaran enough time. Yeah. So, yeah. So let's look at events in his life. Yeah. Events in his life. So this is where we come to the Dasa periods. Yeah. Okay. As my own Guruji always says, yeah, sorry, this is Mang Boni. He always says, the planets say what the dasas say when. Yeah. So the planets basically, if they are, if they are in some sort of a yoga, yeah, they will tell you what has been promised to you in this chart. Yeah. What has been promised to you in this chart, and the dasas are the delivery. I mean, the postman, basically, yeah, and they deliver what you should get. Yeah. Actually, sorry. Actually, this is somehow incomplete because, yeah, my software it's a scrollable software, so I can actually scroll down from 1883. So we have to go beyond 1883. So yeah. So unfortunately, this stops here. I think if we used Jagannath Hora, you'll get the full picture. Yeah. Okay. So unfortunately, I can't scroll this, so I will probably have to read it out. Yeah. Okay. So basically, let's look at this. He was born in the Jupiter Mahadasa. Yeah. He was born. When was he born? He was born 18th February 1836. Yeah. So he ran Jupiter Mahadasa there. Yeah. He ran Jupiter Mahadasa. Yeah. He had about 12 years of the Jupiter Mahadasa that was remaining. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So this was a important period because he underwent a lot of spiritual awakening during this time. Yeah. Although he was very young, I think age 6 or 7, he started having going into trance, hallucinations, maybe not hallucination, but basically going into like a trance-like situation. Yeah. And of course, the goddess that we worshipped to was Mother Kali. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you might want to ask why Mother Kali. So we don't know why Mother Kali. So it's probably like Mother Kali chose him, as opposed to he choosing Mother Kali. Yeah. Right. Okay. So yeah. So he underwent a tremendous spiritual growth during his very early years. Yeah. 6, 7 age. Yeah. It was during this time also his father died. His father died in I've got it here, 1843. 1843, which is around this time here. Yeah, he was running Jupiter Venus. Yeah, so you can see very clearly Jupiter Venus. Yeah, we haven't got like specific dates. Yeah, so it was Jupiter Venus. So you can see why Venus. Yeah, Venus Antardasa. Venus is ninth house lord of father. Yeah, yeah. All right, sitting in the second house of Maraka house. Yeah, all right. And Jupiter is the 11th and second house Maraka lord. Yeah. Incidentally, he was born at the time he was born. He was running the Dvitiya Tidhi. Yeah. So the Tidhi Sunyam houses were actually this two. Were actually Sagittarius and Pisces. Yeah. I mean, this is a question I think for all of you all. Okay, for all of us, really. Okay, so this was his Tidhi Sunyam houses. Yeah, okay, that, and Venus was sitting there. Yeah, and this is basically his Tidhi Sunyam lord. Yeah, Jupiter. Yeah, all right. So, to what extent this played in the death of his father? Yeah, we don't really know. I mean, I don't know how we can attribute it. Maybe it's something that I myself need to discover how this Tidhi Sunyam works. Yeah, all right, okay. But clearly, yeah, It was his Tiruthanim lord, and also incidentally, Venus is also his Badaka lord. Yeah, Badaka lord meaning for fixed house, it's the ninth house lord that's Badaka. So that's the lord, the Badaka house lord. Yeah, and strangely enough, this is also the ninth house where. So I think basically it's this. Yeah, okay. So like they say, when it comes to the Jiva tattvas, yeah, that's where the loss will be suffered, yeah. And when it comes to the non-jiva, the non-living parts, you will gain whatever that you're supposed to gain. Okay. So in this case here, Venus represented his father, so he lost his father. And also at the same time, he was running Sadi Sati, yeah. The Sadi Sati period, first phase of Sadi Sati, and Moon was transiting there. Sorry, Saturn was transiting there at that time. So like they say, like during Sadi Sati, first phase, there's always the possibility of losing an eldest member of the family. Yeah, it tends to happen. I mean, in fact, it happened in my own life. Yeah, I'm going through like one Sadi Sati at the moment. So, I had my mother passing away 2024 January. Yeah, okay. So I think that seems to be like a not, it seems to be happening, in a lot of charts. Yeah, okay, all right. Okay. So that's 1843 it happened to him. Yeah, okay. And then let's look at the next part where 1856 he becomes a priest. Yeah, 1856 when he was running Saturn Ketu. Actually, Saturn was a very major period. So you can see now, yeah, he ran Jupiter, yeah, up to age 12, 13. And then for the remaining 19 years, yeah, starting from 1849 up to 1868, he ran the Saturn period, 19 years of the Saturn period, yeah. This is where a lot of things happened to him. Why? Because as you can see, Saturn was the most powerful planet as far as he was concerned. Yeah, all right, okay. Okay. So, so in the Saturn Venus Dasa, Saturn Venus. So that was Saturn Venus. That was 1859, around there, 1859. So 1856, it ran all the way there. So he underwent the period of Saturn Venus. So that's when he got married. Yeah. So I suppose it's quite obvious. I mean, Venus would give him marriage, and Saturn. And why Saturn? Saturn is sitting in Rahu's nakshatra. Rahu is another planet that gives marriage, yeah, okay. But actually, if you even look at D9, you look at D9. Saturn is aspecting the seventh house here from here. Saturn is seated there in the fifth house, aspecting the seventh house, and the Lagna lord of D9 is Venus. Although Venus is gone Nicham, yeah, but the fact is that this period gave marriage. And you'll notice in many charts, many people's charts, maybe in your own chart, or whenever Venus sat or even Rahu runs, there's always this possibility of meeting a partner with, I mean, I don't say it could end up in a marriage, but there could be like a marriageable relationship. There could be some strong relationship. Yeah. So he basically got married at that time. Yeah. But of course, like I said earlier, that marriage was never really consummated. Yeah, because of all the negatives that were hitting the seventh house. They said Mars aspecting there, Sun although aspecting the seventh house, but with sixth lord Moon there, yeah, okay. And of course, in the D9, Venus has gone Nicham, yeah. And there's actually no cancellation for this Venus, yeah. Yeah, there's no cancellation. It's gone weak. It's sitting in the 12th house of Moksha, yeah, all right. Okay, so then in 1885, so we are talking about, so that's why I say we have run out of the period here, yeah. So 1885, so after the Saturn period, 19 years of the Saturn period, he ran 17 years of Mercury. That's where Mercury. So Mercury started in 1868, yeah, 1868, and went all the way up to 1885. Yeah. So 17 years of Mercury. Yeah. So he continued to grow during this Mercury period. His spiritualism enhanced. He became more famous. He did many great things. I mean, he was able to uh, teach a group of disciples. He was able to group of disciples who turned out to be a very good representation of him. Yeah. Actually, also what I should say also, it was during the Saturn Dasa. Yeah, Saturn Dasa. Yeah, Saturn is the ninth lord. Yeah, okay. Saturn also showed some malefic aspects. Like they say, uh, he he took well he basically he believed in the universal God. Yeah, I mean, as you know, Brahman, Paramis, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, yeah, believed that you can achieve God through any religion, yeah, any religion, yeah. Basically, he says all roads lead to one God, yeah, okay. So he actually was took up sadhana in Sufism. Yeah, as you all know, it's a form of Islam. Yeah, okay, and very seriously, it wasn't like a very seriously adhered to the teachings of Islam. Similarly, he also took up Christianity. You know what I mean? Okay, so this is where they say Saturn as the ninth lord, as the ninth. Sorry, as a malefic, uh, showed its anti-Brahminic self, showed its anti-Brahminic self. Of course, his his disciples, I'm not sure about his disciples, but at least his relatives were not happy about the fact that he took up these non-Hindu faiths. Yeah, okay. So that was the work of Saturn, being unconventional there. Yeah, like they say, uh, unorthodox views. Yeah, okay. So all this happened during the Saturn Dasa for him. Yeah, okay, all right. So coming back to his eventual demise, yeah, he suffered 1885. 1885, I got it as Kedu Dasa, yeah. He ran Kedu 1885, starting, yeah. He ran Kedu. And he contracted an illness it's called clergyman's throat. Apparently, I think they never managed to diagnose it at that time. Yeah, I mean, of course, we are talking about 1885, 1886. I don't know how advanced they were. Yeah. So he contracted this thing called it was a form of cancer. Yeah, inflammation of the throat and that sort of thing due to excessive use of the throat. I mean, of course, he was singing and giving speeches, and I suppose. So I can only make this out, yeah, why he suffered. So it was Kedu Tasa, yeah, actually he suffered from that, yeah. So of course, why Kedu? Kedu is sitting in the second house of Jupiter. Kedu is sitting, sorry, yeah, Kedu's lord is Jupiter, yeah. Kedu's Nakshatra lord is Jupiter, yeah. Kedu's Nakshatra lord is Jupiter, ruling the second house, yeah, ruling the second house. Again, it comes to this point, I said about Tidhi Shunyam, yeah, okay. It's the second house. That is a Tidhi Shunyam house for him. And that is his Tidhi Shunyam lord, yeah, okay. So to what extent these played a role, I don't really know, yeah. To what extent Venus was also a Badaka for him. Yeah. Okay. So again, sitting here in the second house. Yeah. All right. Okay. And the other thing also, there's like they say, Mars. Mars was his Yoga Karaka. Sorry, not his Yoga Karaka. His Atma Karaka planet. Atma Karaka planet. That means the planet with the highest degree. Yeah. So Dr. Charak, I don't know whether you all have read his books, yeah. So he talks about in many of his books on medical astrology, and one particular book called Subtleties of Medical Astrology, okay, where he says that where the Atma Karaka is malefically placed, yeah, and is getting an aspect of a retrograde, I mean, or a malefic aspect here, that is an indicator that there will be a proneness to some sort of a disease. Yeah, there's a prone. Of course, there are a number of other factors. Yeah, okay, yeah. So that's something to think about. You know what I mean? Okay. Of course, I can go and talk about other things. Like, when I checked out, there's something called the 64th Navamsa. 64th Navamsa is actually moon. 4 houses away from moon is the 64th Navamsa. So that's another indicator of a illness giving point, in the chart. So, and strangely enough, fourth house from the moon, you've got actually Mars and Ketu seated there. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, and Ketu, so you can, it said Ketu Dasa, and Ketu is seated there. All right. Okay. All right. The 64th Navamsa, he's got that. So, of course, all these things, you can't really look at them in advance. You can only look at them once the person is been afflicted by the disease, then you can go and look at the 64th Navamsa. And there's also something called the 22nd Rekana, where if you look at the 22nd Rekana, it's the 8th house in the D3 chart. Yeah. And there you'll actually see, I think Mars or Ketu, one of the planets. Yeah. Yeah. You'll actually see Mars sitting there. Yeah. Right. Okay. So to what extent these caused his, these things to happen, the disease to happen, we don't really know. I mean, you really have to go and do an in-depth study. Okay, all right. So he died on 16th August 1886. Yeah, that was in the Kedu Venus Dasa. Kedu Venus Dasa. Yeah. All right. All right. Kedu Venus Dasa. So Venus again seated in the second house of Maraka. Yeah. Venus seated in the second house of Maraka. Yeah. Again in a Tidisunium house. Yeah. Okay. All right. And what else can I say? And like I said, Ketu, the lord of the Nakshatra lord of Ketu is Jupiter, who is also the Tidisunium lord, owning Sagittarius and Pisces. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so that's basically Paramahansa Ramakrishna or Ramakrishna Paramahansa, his life story in an hour. Yeah. Okay. So you can see a few takeaways. Yeah. I mean, all those sannyas yogas. Yeah. Sannyas yogas, which actually directed him in a certain direction. Yeah. Directed him in a certain direction that actually took him. I mean, he could have been a very wealthy guy. Yeah. I mean, as you later see in the chart of Osho, who was the exact opposite of Ramakrishna. Yeah. So he could have been a wealthy guy, but his nature just didn't allow it. Yeah. All right. So, and yeah, so basically that's the story of Ramakrishna Paramahansa. Yeah. I know there's a lot to take in. I know that I brought in some Gemini aspects, which is maybe a bit unfair, but I mean, I had to, because it's there. It's sitting there and staring at us. Yeah. And there's all this numerous yogas, yeah, which are mentioned in many of these classics, yeah. Okay, so we have to take all of them there, because if I just looked at Brihat Parashara Hora, there's just only one classic which is in the Navamsa, where moon sitting in the house of Mars and aspected by Saturn, yeah. Okay, so the other classics give a more detailed detailed sort of not, I won't say example, basically more details of the sannyas yogas that Paramahansa Ramakrishna underwent. Yeah. So yeah. So incidentally, Paramahansa is also a title that was given to him by that very famous teacher of his, yeah, Totapuri. Yeah. Okay. So we don't know where the name Ramakrishna or how it evolved. I don't know if anyone of you here. So yeah. So that's Ramakrishna chart. Yeah. Any questions from anybody? Sorry, before I go further, I know it's very easy to do in hindsight view. Yeah. Could anybody have predicted these sort of things? I think certain things could have been predicted. I mean, like marriage, for instance, some of the sannyas yogas. Could anybody have predicted that he'd be such a great saint of India? I suppose if birth time was correct, they could have predicted, a great person in the making. But a lot of the other things might not have been so easy. So in a way, it might seem like, again, a bit of a cheating where you're fitting the event to the dasa periods, but that's how it is. Yeah. Okay. Anybody, any questions? We've passed 10 minutes past 4. I want to give Master Rajeswaran enough time to look at Osho's chart.